Imagine one of America's greatest cities being told by the President of the United States that federal funding could be cut off if a certain mayoral candidate wins the election. That's exactly what happened this week when former President Donald Trump issued a direct warning to New York City, saying he would withhold federal funds if Zohran Mamdani, whom he labeled a communist, becomes the next mayor. The statement instantly set off a political firestorm, raising questions about power, politics, and punishment in America's largest city. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote that if Mamdani wins, he would only provide the minimum required federal support, warning that New York could face total economic and social disaster. For a city that relies on billions in federal aid every year, those words were not taken lightly. Overnight, Trump's post became the headline across major media networks, some calling it political blackmail, others defending it as a legitimate warning. To understand the magnitude of this, we need to look at the players involved. Donald Trump, the former president and still one of the most influential figures in American politics, has always had a complicated relationship with New York, his first home, his business empire, and the place where his political journey began. Zohran Mamdani, on the other hand, represents a new generation of progressive politics, democratic socialist and state representative. Mamdani has built his campaign on promises of affordable housing, taxing the rich, and protecting working-class New Yorkers, two very different visions for the same city. Trump's warning didn't come out of nowhere. For months, conservative commentators have framed Mamdani as a far-left radical who would bankrupt the city with socialist policies. Trump's statement amplified that narrative, using language designed to spark fear among voters, calling Mamdani a communist, a label that resonates strongly among conservative audiences. But beyond the name-calling lies a serious question. Can a president really deny federal funding to a city because of who its mayor is? Legally, it's complicated. Federal funds are tied to congressional budgets, programs, and laws, meaning no president can simply shut them off unilaterally. But Trump's history shows he's willing to use the threat of funding cuts as a political weapon. During his presidency, he repeatedly clashed with Democratic mayors and governors, threatening to cut grants to so-called sanctuary cities. While most of those threats didn't materialize, they sent a strong political message that federal support could come with strings attached. For New York City, the stakes are enormous. The city receives over $100 billion annually in various forms of federal support, from housing and education grants to transportation infrastructure and healthcare aid. If even a fraction of that were delayed or restricted, it could ripple through the city's economy, affecting millions of residents. That's why Trump's statement, even if not legally enforceable, carries real political and psychological weight. Mamdani responded quickly, accusing Trump of trying to intimidate voters and undermine democracy. His campaign called the remarks an act of federal bullying, saying New Yorkers wouldn't be scared into voting a certain way. On social media, his supporters began using the hashtag TrumpProofNYC, turning the controversy into a rallying cry. Many progressives argued that Trump's comments exposed a deeper issue, how federal power can be used to pressure local governments and silence dissenting voices. But not everyone dismissed Trump's threat. Some New Yorkers, particularly in business circles, expressed concern that Mamdani's policies could already drive out investment and worsen the city's fragile post-pandemic economy. To them, Trump's message was more of a warning than a threat, a reminder that political decisions have financial consequences. This isn't just a local election anymore. It's become a symbolic battle for the soul of American politics, progressivism versus populism, local governance versus federal dominance. Trump, who still commands a massive following across the country, seems to be using New York's mayoral race as a stage to project national power. By painting Mamdani as a communist, he's energizing his base and reframing the city's election as a national ideological clash. Experts believe this strategy serves two purposes. First, to weaken Democrats in a liberal stronghold. And second, to reinforce Trump's narrative that the radical left is taking over America's cities. Whether or not that's true, the political theater is working. The headlines have shifted from local policies to a national confrontation between Trump and Mamdani, and that alone could influence voters. Meanwhile, Constitutional scholars warn that even the idea of withholding funds for political reasons could erode democratic norms. Federal funding isn't a reward or punishment. It's a lifeline for citizens, not politicians. Using it as leverage could set a dangerous precedent where future presidents pressure local leaders to align politically or risk losing resources. If Mamdani wins, the real test begins. Would Trump actually attempt to follow through on his threat? And if he did, would courts step in to stop him? Legal experts say that federal funds tied to law like education and housing programs can't simply be cut without congressional approval. But politically, the damage might already be done. Uncertainty, tension, and division could undermine city stability long before any legal action. If Mamdani loses, Trump could claim victory, proof that his influence still shapes New York politics. But if Mamdani wins, despite the threats, it would signal a defiant message from voters that New Yorkers won TB swayed by intimidation from Washington. Either way, this moment will echo far beyond City Hall. At its heart, this story isn't just about two men. It's about power. It's power to influence, to intimidate, and to define what kind of democracy America wants to be. A city built on resilience is now at the center of a political storm that could test the balance between federal authority and local independence. As the election nears, one question remains. Is New York voting for a mayor or making a stand against a message of fear? Only time and the ballots will tell.